Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Williamson. How's everyone doing? Draft is inching towards us here, and I will be at the owners' meeting. I think I mentioned this, but I'm leaving Saturday, coming home Wednesday. We're going to do three-hour shows from down there and all kinds of good stuff. Hopefully get some more scoop. Maybe we get some Rodgers news between now and then. But we did get some quarterback news in that Russell Wilson is a New York Giant. And a couple things. Recently, I was pretty much told that the Steelers, not that they were unhappy, but pretty much weren't going to go that direction. You know, that they pretty much told Russ, you're not for us. It certainly was not a character thing. I think they really liked the person. I just think that they need more from the position. And so great. Okay, he goes to the Giants. The Steelers are going to have an entirely new quarterback room yet again. Fine. I do think it will be Rodgers. But in case you aren't aware, this really helps the Steelers. The fact that Russ signed with the Giants for decent money, 10.5 guaranteed, up to $21 million, before the draft for comp pick reasons. So as it stands now, and this is not an exact science, but people that I trust that do these calculations think the Steelers right now will get an additional third, fourth, fifth, and sixth compensatory pick, not for this upcoming draft in a month or so, a year from now. And that's kind of lowballing it, because if Wilson plays X amount of snaps and has X amount of success, that could even get better. Now, the comp pick game is something that can be confusing, but boy, think about that. I mean, an extra pick in 3, 4, 5, 6, and it really didn't cost you anything. I mean, are you crying about Najee or Dan Moore or any of those guys necessarily leaving? No. Rodgers would not affect that at all because he was cut. He was not a free agent, same as Slay. So there's a lot of value to letting your free agents walk and adding guys that got cut as opposed to guys whose contract expired. And the Steelers played that brilliantly. And I think it's going to really work in their advantage. And where I'm going with this is more and more and more. And oh, by the way, I meant to tell you this too. That's a rule that some of you guys might not know. The most comp picks you can get in a single draft class is 4. Now, you could end up, I mean, it never happens. You could end up with 4 third rounders. They're always between rounds 3 and 7. As of now, they have a 3, 4, 5, and 6. But it wouldn't shock me if they end up with a 3, 2 4s, a 6, whatever. But you can only end up with 4 picks total compensatory. So where I'm going with this is I really think a lot of people are very critical of the Steelers. I get it. They're frustrated. They haven't won a playoff game. The seasons have ended poorly. We know all that. But I think a lot of people, and I get this a ton, this team has no plan. Guys, this is a plan. And I'm going to lay out more of a plan for you. Because next year, and I don't know what's going to be available in next year's quarterback class, but next year you are so well equipped to go get the guy you want. I'm fine with Rodgers and Rudolph. I do believe that's better than last year's quarterback room. And I think Rodgers has higher upside for sure. Way higher upside than Fields or Wilson gave you last year. And you have DK Metcalf, which is much better than what you had last year. I fully expect the offense to be better. If Rodgers signs whenever, I think they have a chance to have a successful season. Not the best year in the league, but there's a chance. And still be really set up for next year to go get your quarterback. That being said, on the other side of the podcast, I'm going to lay out something for you, and I'm looking at the draft through a different lens. But first off, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting on all the madness. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds from everything from college basketball to a $200,000 bracket contest, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every Cinderella story to every hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. So once in a while during the offseason, during the draft cycle, I like to kind of reset my thinking. I don't want to get so set in my ways that this is how the Steelers draft has to go because, this is how I've thought all along. Sometimes I think it's smart in any walk of life, really, is take a step back. Let's think about it from a totally different perspective. And you might not like that perspective at all, but I'm kind of enamored with taking this route right now. And here's my route. Is I want you to think about building, I was talking about building the perfect nest, the softest landing spot when you're going to draft a quarterback a year from now. And in the meantime, I still think my strategy gives them a very good chance to be competitive, to win, maybe win a playoff game, maybe win the division this year. And it starts with signing Rodgers. Okay, if we act as if that's a foregone conclusion, great. Now, I wouldn't mind drafting a quarterback from this class, mid-rounds. I'm always in favor of that, and there's some guys I like. But if you don't, I don't really care. I really don't. Rudolph's going to be your backup this year and next year, probably. Rodgers is going to be here this year, maybe next year. I want to create the softest landing spot I can for that first-round pick next year, who I hope is Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, all rolled into one. So the fact that I have a rookie quarterback this year, I can live without that. Here's where I'm going to lose you, but bear with me, because I've told you 8 million times this is an awesome running back class, so you have to get one. I still believe that, sort of. It is an awesome running back class. You might as well dip your toe in that water. And I'm not saying running backs don't matter, but in terms of building for my quarterback to hopefully win Super Bowl after Super Bowl, I don't know that drafting a running back in the third round this year is a necessity. And this is what I would do. Unless one of these players is just an absolute medical reject, and I don't think they are, my other move I would do before the draft, besides signing Rodgers, is I would sign Nick Chubb or J.K. Dobbins. Nick Chubb might be shot. I don't know, but he was awesome one day. J.K. Dobbins has a massive injury history. They both do. But he was really good before his injury. And I can more than live with a backfield of Gainwell, Dobbins, Warren. Doesn't mean I won't draft one going into the draft, but this is leading into the draft, but I know I don't have to. Bear with me. And again, do you know what kind of contract you could get Dobbins or Chubb for right now? Or the day before the draft? Nothing. I mean, you would get them a couple $1 million to drop in the bucket of their salary cap. You could feed them the ball like crazy with Warren. Maybe add a rookie, maybe not. We'll get to that. And frankly, if they get injured, you could cut them and maybe you'd have $1 million dead money. I mean, you could probably give them no guaranteed money or very little guaranteed money. I mean, people, I've thrown this out on Twitter, and in the last 24 hours, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of my Twitter followers. Yeah, but Dobbins is injury prone. And okay, it's no investment, folks. I mean, $2 million, $3 million when you have 50 to spend and you cut Cordarrelle Patterson. Frankly, you might make money cutting Cordarrelle Patterson and signing J.K. Dobbins. You may actually gain cap space. I mean, so please don't tell me that's a terrible investment. It's not even an investment. Just give me J.K. Dobbins going into the draft in case it doesn't go the way I want. Because this is my new kick. And half of it you'll agree with. I want my big people, my 300-pounders, to be awesome. And I would go into this draft with Dobbins and Rodgers. Cordarrelle Patterson's out, whatever. With a very, I don't want to say strict rule, but strong guideline that we're drafting 4 300-pounders, 2 defensive linemen and 2 offensive linemen. Yeah, but Matt, O-line's not really even a need. I don't care. I mean, what if Broderick Jones stinks? Siamalu, I think, is going to be the next guy that gets you a comp pick a year from now. I think they'll let him walk. He'll sign somewhere. You'll get a 5th-round pick out of that. Oh, so well. You're going to need a guard. Maybe Faetanu's a guard. But here's the key. It's just value. It's just economics. If Dan Moore, who you drafted in the 4th round, yields you a 3rd-round comp pick when he leaves, and the league thinks he's worth $20 million a year, just draft tackles all the time. It's kind of a cheat code. Just draft tackles. There's not enough linemen to go around in the league. I think we all agree in a great defensive tackle draft, this is the time to hit that hard. And this all goes back to the nest for my quarterback, my future Mahomes, my future Ben. I want them to have a great line that's a little bit in place. So what I did was, I mean, you're also set with Metcalf for years to come. You can extend Pickens. This team has so much money and so much draft capital next off season. Go get the things that are hard to find. Big people. So I went to Pro Football Focus, and I'm not married to these names, but I took that approach into a mock draft. And I told myself I am drafting at least 4 300-pounders. And I'm also going to make sure in this mock draft, I don't trade one spot. I'm just picking from what's there. I'm not going to manipulate things to any degree. And what you end up with is what you end up with. But Matt, you are for sure taking 4 linemen. So at 21, I took Walter Nolan, who I love. And great. I didn't trade back to get back in the 2nd round. And then with the 3rd round, I took an offensive tackle who's a total project that has super high ceiling in William and Mary's Charles Grant. I don't need him to play at all this year, but he's my 3rd tackle. He could end up being a starter. He could end up being the next $20 million a year player 4 years from now. He could absolutely be a 6th offensive lineman. So then in the next round, I took a nose that I liked a lot. Oregon's Jamari Caldwell. So at this point, I took kind of a 3-4 end penetrator, hopefully my next Cam Hayward, hopefully, and a nose, Jamari Caldwell. I'm done with D-line. I attacked the defensive tackle position, and frankly, the nose tackle types are plentiful in that neighborhood. That was a pick with the 123rd pick overall. There's a lot to pick from in that draft. And hey, I love Charles Grant too, or not Charles Grant. We drafted him as a tackle, but Kenneth Grant from the Wolverines, Michigan. He'd be a fine 1st-round pick too, as would Harmon. But 1st round, I'm really targeting D-line, and right around that 4th round neighborhood, I'm really targeting a nose tackle type. But that's where I'm probably losing it. You guys are like, man, you ignored running back. How about a quarterback? How about, a receiver? How about a corner? You can't just take all these linemen. I mean, you only have 6 picks as it stands now. And like I said, I didn't manipulate the board. And again, I'm not married to these names. So at this point, I have my D-line done. And I hope, man, I really solved this problem for years. And as we've talked about, I think that basically completes your defense for this season pretty much. I mean, and then in the next round, I don't think this player will be there, but Kyle Williams is a wide receiver that I really, really like from Washington State. I don't think he'll be available with 156 pick, but this to show you I'm not drafting only big people. There's a spot or two in those 6 picks where, okay, that's a running back, and oh man, I have one too many running backs though because I signed J.K. Dobbins. Well, cut him, or somebody will get hurt, or trade him, whatever. I mean, it's small potatoes. That is not something that's not a hurdle. But a receiver, a corner, something fun that's not a big guy. Okay. I mean, I'm not totally ignoring that. Even a quarterback, something like that. And then with my last 2 picks, I took 2 project offensive linemen again. So I ended this draft, and I know these mock draft simulators, take them with a grain of salt. But my strategy is big people, big people. I took another tackle who was a very highly recruited player, Logan Brown from Kansas. And I'm going into this trading camp with 2 first-round tackles and 2 high upside tackles because tackles are gold. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This is economics. Tackles are gold. And then I took an interior player I like a lot too, Joshua Gray. He's a guard or a center. I think he's a good football player. Oregon State, that was my last pick. So I went 5 with my rule saying I'm going to take at least 4 of these. And just think about where you'd be sitting after the year with all those draft picks next year. Hopefully a quarterback, 2 or 3 that you adore. You have to think your O-line is in good shape and young and cheap. Your D-line should be fixed. Trenches, Eagles, trenches, Eagles. And I can always find a third receiver. I can find, Dobbins didn't work out. Warren hit a wall. All right, I'll draft a running back in the 2nd round next year or whatever. I can find those guys. But I can't find tackles because Dan Moore's worth $20 million a year and a 3rd round pick. And that's just economics, folks. Look at the draft through that lens. And I'm keep bouncing it off people. I've been really thinking about this a lot the last 24 hours. And a couple days ago, I didn't think, if they drafted a project tackle, that'd be nice. But now it's like, just keep drafting them and have one of the best O-lines and defensive fronts in the league and go from there. And most importantly, prepare now, prepare the nest for the baby egg that's coming, that's very fragile, that is your 1st round quarterback in the 2026 draft. All right, everyone, take care.